Well, good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us here this evening. My name is James Casey. I'm a Schools and Colleges Liaison Officer here at Royal Holloway, University of London. It's great to be with you here this evening for a webinar all about a guide to clearing. I'm sure that some of you might already know a little bit about Royal Holloway. Some of you might even be holding offers for us for this September. Fantastic stuff. Hopefully by the end of this evening's session, you'll have a really good understanding for what clearing is, how the system works for clearing, and hopefully be able to leave you with some top tips about everything you need to know about clearing and the ways that you can prepare for it as well. I am joined this evening by Abby, one of our wonderful student ambassadors, someone who knows student life best at Royal Holloway. Abby I'm going to introduce her, get her to introduce herself properly later on when we come to the questions and answer section of the session. And we're also hoping to be joined by one of our admissions team here at Royal Holloway as well. So hopefully those sort of more expertise questions, hopefully you'll be able to get some really good answers to them as well. In terms of some housekeeping this evening, there's a few things I just want to make known before we dive into the content. Just that you're aware, this evening's webinar will be recorded. So if you do miss anything as I'm talking for the next sort of 20 minutes or so, or maybe you want to find something and go back over it later on, we will be uploading it to our YouTube channel after this evening. So hopefully, yes, you'll be able to recap on things if you want to. Likewise, please do get involved with questions this evening, particularly for our question and answer session later on. And I thank you as well for those that have already submitted some questions beforehand. We will be going through as many of these as we can. I should note at this point, we're not going to be able to answer specific situational questions, but more those sort of broader questions around clearing and anything really about Royal Holloway as well. Maybe if you want to find out something specifically from a student perspective, of course, that could be a really good opportunity for you to ask Abby, our student ambassador, as well. And just before we do dive into the session tonight, I am just going to put a quick poll out to see if you can hear me okay. Hopefully you can. So if you could please answer the poll on your screen now, that would be fantastic. Fantastic, that looks like an overwhelming yes, so fingers crossed you can all hear me too. Okay, if you can't, I would just advise you to come back out of the meeting and re-enter it again. So yeah, fantastic. So getting into this evening's session, a quick sort of introduction to where I'm coming from, Royal Holloway, University of London. We are a top 30 university in the UK. We're regularly voted as one of the most beautiful campuses, not only in the UK, but also around the world as well. That is partly thanks to our wonderful Victorian Founders Building. You can see a bit of it in the picture here. But we do also have lots of other things that students get up to with us as well. We have over 100 different clubs and societies for students to get involved in. And on average, our above sector average for student satisfaction shows that essentially our students are really happy and satisfied essentially when they are students at Royal Holloway. I myself am a previous student. I do work here as a Schools and Colleges Liaison Officer now, but previous to that I studied drama for 3 years. So I've also got a good student grounding in Royal Holloway as well. In terms of where we're located, we are located in a place called Egham in Surrey, just outside of West London. You can sort of see us flying over West London right now and landing down to our wonderful green leafy campus. And of course, you can see there a little bit of Founders Building itself. And in terms of the campus map, we do have a lovely green leafy campus. That is what is so unique about our wonderful setting to learn in. On top of that, though, we do have 12 different bands of accommodation for students to live in when they are a student here. Also lots of academic buildings, of course. You can see on the right hand side there, one of our largest lecture theatres, and of course lots of social spaces as well, where students can unwind when they're a student at Royal Holloway, 2 different nightclubs, 5 different bars and cafes, our wonderful sports centre in the bottom right-hand corner there as well. So there's lots of social aspects that you can get involved in when you're a student at Royal Holloway as well. In terms of the departments that we offer, these are our 20 different academic departments. Some of you might already be familiar with them already. If so, that's fantastic. If not, definitely keep them in mind if you do find yourself in the clearing system. Anything from arts, humanities, but also STEM subjects as well. Within that, we also have just over 200 academic courses. So I do believe there's a lot of choice with our courses here at Royal Holloway. In terms of the session that we are going to be covering today, there's sort of 3 different key areas that I want to cover with you in the next 20 minutes or so. First and foremost, what is clearing? What do you need to know about clearing? And how does it work, essentially? The preparation, some really good preparation that hopefully you can do ahead of clearing if you find yourself in it, particularly on results day, potentially. And of course, the process of clearing. So what is actually the step-by-step stages that you might need to cover if you do find yourself in the clearing system. And then finally, hopefully I'm going to leave you with some really good tips for success as well. Some top tips that hopefully will stand you in really good stead, again, if you find yourself in clearing, or maybe just some really good useful things for you to know, regardless of your situation on results day. Of course, at that point, that'll be the end of everything I've got for you, but then we will go into our Q&A session, where you will obviously have the chance to ask whatever you want about clearing itself or about Royal Holloway more widely as well. So deep diving straight into the first question this evening, what actually is clearing? The first thing that I want to point out to you about clearing tonight is that it's specifically for students not holding an offer from a university for a variety of reasons, or it is specifically for students who maybe want to reconsider their choice. Again, for a variety of reasons, but maybe you find yourself in the clearing system because you have to reconsider your choice, or maybe it is your choice to reconsider, essentially to find a different course that might suit you better as well. Of course, if you didn't apply by that June 30th deadline and you've applied after that point, of course, that is when clearing might also be an option for you as well, if there is anyone joining in that situation tonight. In terms of who can actually use clearing then, so specifically, as I've just mentioned, if you're applying after the 30th of June, you didn't apply by the 25th of January deadline, then maybe you've applied after that point and you can now access the opportunities for universities within clearing. Maybe you didn't receive any offers or potentially none that you actually wanted to accept, so you didn't ever firm or insurance any of those choices, and now you want to sort of let yourself be free within clearing to see what is out there. The next one, potentially the most common way that people find themselves in clearing, that you maybe did not meet the conditions of your offer. That could be your firm offer, it could be also your insurance offer as well. You didn't quite maybe attain the grades that you needed to meet that the conditions of those offer, and that is now why you find yourself in clearing. Again, maybe it can be a bit of a scary connotation with that situation. In the next sort of 15 minutes or so, you'll have a really good grounding, potentially for how you can feel more at ease with the system. There are some really good opportunities that you can find through clearing. Or of course, that final one there, that you've declined your firm place using your decline my place option in your UCAS track. Essentially, you just sort of changed your mind. You don't really want to go to maybe that firm choice or that insurance choice that you have on your UCAS application. At that point, you can decline your place there and virtually put yourself into clearing. So place yourself into the system by choice yourself. In terms of how clearing actually works then, first and foremost, when you log into your UCAS track, they will tell you if you are in clearing. So come results day, at that point, you will know yourself straight away if you are in clearing or not. Once you know that you're in clearing, if that is the situation you find yourself in, that's really your opportunity to begin looking around for vacancies, maybe at other universities, or all the different courses that you might be able to enter into with the grades that you have attained. Of course, you can use the UCAS search tool to find some of those clearing places, or of course, if you have a specific university in mind, then I'll of course encourage you to check out those websites specifically. At that point then, you will of course have to ring the university as well, and that is when essentially you might be able to receive the offer for that course that is available, and that is when you will need lots of readily available information about yourself that essentially universities will need to be able to grant you that offer if you meet their requirements. So thinking specifically about the preparation then and the process of how it might actually happen on the day. At this point, this is potentially the sort of post-application timeline that you have found yourself in. So I should say at this point, this is typically the sort of UK post-application timeline. So hopefully you applied by the 25th of January this year. That was the general application deadline. Potentially in February, March time, maybe a little bit later, you've started to apply for your student finance. All those sort of details, be rest assured, can be changed if you find yourself at a different place through clearing, for instance. So please don't worry about that. Those details can be changed. The 18th of May was the deadline for universities to respond to you with your offers. And then you had a deadline of the 8th of June for choosing your firm choice and your insurance choice courses. Obviously, at that point, this is when you then find yourself in results day. So, of course, August 17th is the A-level results day in summer 2023, where you will essentially be confirming your places at the universities that you've applied for. The best tips that I can really give you for preparing for results day are probably these four on the screen. First and foremost, get planning as soon as you can. So let's assume, for instance, you have been accepted into your firm choice. Absolutely, that's fantastic. Get planning about the different situations you might find yourself in. Have you got accommodation in place? Is your student finance fully sorted? Is there a specific activity you want to get involved in within your Freshers Week? Everything like that. Of course, get planning as if you've been accepted into your firm choice. But at that point, until you're told otherwise, always have a backup plan as well. So begin thinking about those different possible outcomes. Again, maybe have a plan in place for your insurance choice if you don't get into your firm choice. But again, if you find yourself in clearing, absolutely go in with a plan firmly in place so that you know the different possible outcomes. At that point as well, I definitely encourage you to get researching. So please do take a look at vacancies and entry requirements. Quite often these are available in the week of results day, typically from the Monday, using the UCAS search tool. So you'll already be able to go in and see which universities have spaces for each of those courses, which courses that you might be able to actually ring up about on results day. Write down where you may want to apply, of course, keep notes of it. But also things like their clearing phone numbers and of course their opening times as well. Those will be the really important key considerations you'll need if you do find yourself ringing up a specific university about a course on results day. After you've done your research, then of course get ready. So those key informations, of course, things like your UCAS login details, you will need to do some bits from your side with UCAS if you do find a new place in clearing. For that though, you will need your UCAS ID number. That's really important. The university won't be able to offer you anything unless you have your UCAS ID number. And a list of qualifications, so not just your A-level or BTEC qualifications, but also things like your GCSEs or equivalent study if you're joining from an international perspective. Absolutely, those things will be super important. And finally, this last one, this is more of a sort of personal tip for you, I guess. See if you can get an early night and hopefully a good night's sleep. I know, of course, there'll be lots of nerves, I guess, about receiving results about potentially 2 years of your life to study A-levels or BTECs. But results, they can be quite long if you find yourself in clearing and very busy as well. So if you can make sure that you're well rested ahead of the day, I definitely think it will stand you in really good stead and hopefully allow you to sort of remain calm in what might be quite a busy situation for you. So two sort of different situations that I want to run you through. If you do get the grades for that course that you know you want to, you've firmed or that you've insured, if you do get the grades there, absolutely, you should first and foremost check your UCAS. From that, you should then await confirmation either from UCAS itself, or in most cases, universities do send out a confirmation email as well, congratulating you on confirming your place at their institution. At that point, of course, start planning. Maybe that's a little bit optimistic of me. Of course, you're going to want to celebrate as well. So really throw yourself into those celebrations. It's not every day that you confirm your place at university. So I definitely encourage you to celebrate. Maybe the planning can come a little bit after that. Thinking about the practicalities of you actually starting at university a few weeks later. The flip side of that then, maybe if you don't get the grades that you expect, or maybe that you needed to get into your top or insurance choice, of course, check UCAS. Again, if you haven't got that confirmation, stay calm at that point. I'd also say stay at home, because then you really can review your options better. Don't get involved in suddenly traveling around here, there and everywhere to try and fix the situation. Sometimes you really can make lots of decisions from home. And at that point, once you've done your research, hopefully you've already got your plan in place, you can then get connected. So ring up those universities, see what courses they can offer you. And the last thing here, really start early. So if you do get your grades through nice and early, maybe at 7 o'clock in the morning, for instance, you know that your UCAS hasn't confirmed you into either your firm or insurance choice, why not ring up straight away and again see what early opportunities universities can offer you. I definitely encourage you to ring up as soon as you can, because essentially places will potentially be on a first come, first served basis. So if you can start early, I definitely would encourage you to do so. The 4 key things, just as a reminder, that you will need when you ring up those universities. Of course, for your sake, it will be your UCAS login. You will have something to confirm on your UCAS track after you've been given the offer of that place. So you will need your login details. For you to provide to the person you are speaking to over the phone, you will need your UCAS number, essentially to ensure that you are already in the system for UCAS. You'll also need things like the course and university info that you're applying for. If you can come forward with those specific course codes from UCAS, for instance, that would be super helpful for the person on the other side of the phone, and essentially just make it a really seamless process for you. And of course, as I mentioned quickly as well, a list of your grades, so you can really just offload them to the person that you're talking to. What grades you've got just now at A-level or BTEC, but also those GCSE subjects that might be really important. Again, for specific courses, for specific universities, you might find that you require a certain grade within that specific subject at GCSE. You might need a grade 6 in maths at GCSE if you want to study maths at university, all things like that. It's good to just have those in place in case you find yourself needing them. Again, maybe in that sort of franticness, it's good to sort of remember some really important things about choosing your options. So of course, reflect on your plans and your priorities for the future. Research your options, especially, as I said, if you can do that ahead of results day to make sure you have that plan in place. That would be really good for you. And then make a shortlist. When you sort of start ringing up those universities and potentially finding out what they can and what they can't offer you, you're quite naturally going to be going back and forth between researching options and making that shortlist. You might ring up one university and know, for instance, that you're not going to be able to get in there. So of course it comes off your shortlist. Likewise, you might ring up another place and straight away it might go super up your list to suddenly be top of your shortlist as well. So it's very natural to keep researching your options and drafting that shortlist as well. The key considerations that I'd always keep in mind when you are ringing up and doing your research on those courses, module choice will be super important. Is there a specific type of content in your course that you know you want to study? Do you want it to be a more practical course or a more theoretical course? How do you want to be assessed? More essay-based, more lab-based, anything like that? Those are really important things to consider. I'd also encourage you to check out the National Student Survey scores for your course specifically from current students, but also from previous students of that course as well. What academic opportunities can that university offer you? Maybe also social opportunities as well. How important is the local environment? Do you know specifically that you really want to go to a city-based university? Or maybe are you happy with the nice, welcoming, homely feel of a campus-based university? Is that going to be something that you're really going to have to consider with your choices on clearing day as well? And those final two there, the personal support available to you, how important is that to you as well? Of course, you're really going to want to be supported in your studies personally, as well as academically and socially when you're a student at university. So that might be something really key to consider. And finally, how does the extracurricular activities play within your priorities as well? So is there a specific sport or society or a hobby that you know you really want to continue or try out new maybe when you're at university? And again, does that university or course specifically offer those opportunities? So hopefully that just gives you a reminder of some key considerations to think about when you do find yourself doing the research on clearing day, or hopefully in advance. What do you need to do? First and foremost, this is pretty much a sort of 2 or 3 step process. Find that course, call that university. You may want to repeat these steps several times until you get made the offer that you are absolutely sure that you want to go through with. And finally, when you've chosen the offer that you want, add that final choice onto your UCAS track. That is essentially how you will have confirmed your place at that university. Sometimes the confirmation email from universities, because they are taking in so many students at a quick pace on those days, it might come through a little bit delayed. That's totally normal. But as long as you've added your final choice on UCAS track at that point, that's a good enough step for you to confirm your place at that university. Specifically at Royal Holloway then, I'm sure some of you are joining us this evening because you want to know more about our clearing process at Royal Holloway. We have got a lot of details on our website already, so if you want to follow through to that link at the bottom of the screen, I definitely encourage you to do so. All the sort of information that you can see available to you right now is on there. Technically, we are already open for clearing for students that have got their results potentially from last year or from an international perspective. We are technically already open, but of course, the majority of students will be using our clearing system on A-level results day, which is, of course, Thursday, the 17th of August next week. So yeah, if you do want to find out more about our specific clearing details, I definitely encourage you to take a look on our website. And of course, our all-important clearing number as well, 0178 772 455. So just to leave you before we go into the question and answer session tonight, we do have some top tips for success for you. First and foremost, think about your options. I know that sounds a bit silly to say, to think about your options, but absolutely I would encourage you to just ask yourself how you feel. Sometimes it's quite easy to forget how you feel about the situation. Maybe you've gone along to open days in the past to really test your gut feeling on a university and on a course. Absolutely do that again here. Keep asking yourself, what is your gut feeling about the place that you are literally talking to on the phone, and maybe go along if you can to the campus tours that they might be offering. We will be open on the Thursday, Friday and Saturday for campus tours for any prospective students that join us through clearing. So again, see what opportunities might help you to think about your options there as well. Do your research, know those courses, know specifically why you want to pursue those courses in clearing, and of course the all-important practical details as well. So what are those codes that can speed up the process for you when you're on the phone as well? Essentially, do your research and know those courses that you want to bring up about. Ask advice. It might be from your parent, your guardian, your sibling, your friend, someone you know that's gone through clearing before, your teacher at school, anything like that, anyone that you essentially trust to speak to about your university choice. Absolutely, I'd encourage you to do so. Of course, it is your personal decision to go to university, and that is all important at the end of the day. But definitely speak to people that you trust and you think know you best as well. So I definitely ask you to ask advice for people around you. Don't rush. You have got time. I know it's easy to get caught up into the franticness of results day and clearing morning and things like that. But if you don't need to rush, then don't rush. Take it sort of calm and collected. Stay calm in the situation. do that last minute research, bring up those universities, and just weigh out all those opportunities available to you in front of you, so that really you can make an informed decision about what your next step will be. And then finally, be excited. I know it sounds sort of silly to say at this point, but it's only one time in your life that you're going to really have that opportunity to get a confirmed place at university. So hopefully by the end of that day, if you do find yourself in clearing, you can really feel excited about what you have ahead of you. It'll only be a few weeks away. And again, you are choosing to empower yourself by going to university. So hopefully you can feel really super excited about the options that you have ahead of you. So yes, hopefully that gives you some really good information about the clearing system, and also a little bit about what I would like to see really from someone who's going through clearing, my top tips for you, and also maybe a little bit specifically of an introduction to what our clearing system is like at Royal Holloway as well. So yeah, hopefully that was helpful for you. That is all the content I've got for you this evening. We are now going to move on to our question and answer session. So I'm just going to get the questions up on my screen and stop sharing my own screen if that's okay. There we go, fantastic. So Abby, if you are there, firstly, can you hear me okay? And secondly, would you like to introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about the course that you study and how you found your course at Royal Holloway as well.
Yeah, so my name's Abby and I have just graduated from Royal Holloway and I studied law, and I really enjoyed the course and I really enjoyed the university itself, and I think there's a real campus life that comes with being at Royal Holloway, and this was something I really felt that I got involved in and really enjoyed.
Fantastic, thank you so much, Abby. Yeah, really good stuff. As I said, you've got a really good sort of student grounding, hopefully for this question and answer session tonight. As I said earlier, my previous experience was studying drama at Royal Holloway as well. So hopefully we can answer some really good practical experience questions for you. So yes, thank you so much for submitting. For those of you that have submitted questions in advance, we're going to try and get through as many of them as we can. I can also see we've had some questions come in through the chat as well. So again, we'll try our best to get through those tonight. I guess first and foremost, Abby, I'm going to start with a question for you. You came to Royal Holloway through clearing.
Yeah.
Sort of a good opening question. How did you find the clearing process?
Yeah, so mine was on results day, and I was the COVID year where the results were all a little bit unpredictable anyway. And I didn't get into the university that I wanted, but so I went through clearing, and that's how I got my place at Royal Holloway. And it was obviously a bit of a stressful day because it wasn't what you expected, but the people you spoke to made it a lot easier and clarified a lot of things, and there seemed to be quite a lot of options really about a lot of universities were really willing to speak with you and had a lot of places.
Fantastic. Yeah, that's really good sort of overview, I guess, for your experience. Is there any one specific top tip that you give to a student finding themselves in clearing?
I'd say definitely just don't panic and be really open-minded. So try and be as open to as many different options as possible, because at the end of the day, the more things you're open to, the best option you can find for yourself.
Fantastic. Yeah, really good stuff. Thank you. And yeah, definitely keep open-minded. There's some really cool opportunities out there for you in clearing. So if you can really be as open-minded as you can about those opportunities, hopefully you can find something that really suits you well. So yes, we're going to move on to some of the questions that we've had submitted. First and foremost, does clearing apply for foundation years too? Absolutely, it does. Potentially, even if you don't find yourself having full access to the full undergraduate course that you've applied for, and there is a foundation year available on that course, that could be something that might be really suitable for you to consider. So yeah, absolutely, it does apply for foundation years. Can I apply for a different course through clearing if I've been rejected. My top tip there really would be just for you to ring up on that morning and see if there's something that Royal Holloway can still offer you. That also goes for other institutions as well. In that case, if you sort of don't ask, then you don't necessarily get. So my top tip there would definitely be for you to just ring up on the morning and see what's available to you, even if you haven't met the entry requirements for a different course that you've applied for earlier on. And we've also had a few questions around specific requirements for courses at Royal Holloway. Again, I'm not going to go through that now in detail. My best bet for you would definitely just take a look on our website, go to the specific course pages and see what we offer in our typical sort of grade offering. Of course, depending on the sort of flexibility that we have on clearing dates, some of those grade requirements might be reduced so that we can offer more student places. But again, things like that, details like those grade requirements will be available on typically the Monday of results week. So definitely, again, I would encourage you to take a look at that, maybe even in advance of results day. So yeah, definitely, or if you find yourself ringing up on results day, again, you're going to get an instant answer there and then about our requirements on the day. We've had another really good question around deferring. So again, that's a really good question, thank you. How can you defer your decision to study for the following year? It can be quite difficult sometimes. It's not something that we at Royal Holloway or other universities can always offer you. So again, I'm just going to say ring up on the day and see what sort of options we have available to you, whether you already have the grades to get in this September, for instance. Maybe if they're the same grade requirements for next September, it is something that we can definitely look into do. But again, just in case of deferring, definitely ring up on the day and see the situation that we have immediately in front of us to see what we can then offer you as well. Okay, another really good question here. What kind of questions do you get asked when you're on the phone to a university during the clearing process? So Abby, I'm going to ask you that question. When you rung up on results day, presumably for clearing, what were the sort of details that you had to give? What were the questions that they asked you, and maybe the questions that you asked the person on the other end of the phone line as well?
So obviously a lot of details and sort of all the information about the grades you've received and GCSE grades and that sort of thing. And questions also about what you would like to do and perhaps if you were open to any other options. So for me, I think they were asking if I'd like to consider you can have law with courses, so law with sociology and different options like that. So there were like other options to think about in that sense too. And questions I was asking was things like about the open day and like would there be an opportunity to go, which there then is. There's a clearing open day for clearing students, because that's obviously really reassuring to then go and look at the uni that you've applied for, especially if it perhaps wasn't one that you were looking into as much before. And yeah, just things about the clearing process, really, how it affects your accommodation offer was quite an important thing, because a lot of the accommodation's already been sort of distributed, so there might not be quite as much choice. But for me, this wasn't something that mattered because I did still get my choice that I wanted, but it was something that I was asking about.
Yeah, I think that's a really good summary. The really important thing I'd like to emphasise, I guess, on that point is that the person on the other end of the phone is going to want to be able to offer you a place. So hopefully they'll be really nice and welcoming. It'll be people just like me, just like Abby, student ambassadors as well, who will be on the other end of the phone line here at Royal Holloway. So hopefully, you know, we want you to do well, and hopefully we can make it as less scary situation as possible for you. So yeah, hopefully that gives you a really good flavour for like the sort of conversation you might have if you do ring up to us on results day. So yeah, thank you for that question. Really good stuff. We've also had a good number of questions come in through the chat, so we're going to go through some of them now as well. Are there places in accommodation available for students who secure places through clearing? The answer is yes, there is. Abby, do you want to explain? I presume you went into accommodation your first year as well. Do you want to explain how you found that process after clearing?
Yeah, so on my open day that I went to after clearing, they showed us some of the accommodation, and one of the accommodations, George Eliot, we looked around inside as well, and I really liked that accommodation. So you then send off your accommodations. It has a list of all of them, and you put them in order of which one you like the most to the least. And you can consider things like whether you want an ensuite, a double bed, a catered or self-catered accommodation, and obviously the prices as well. So then you send that off, and they'll obviously, depending on availability, try and get you one that's as near to the top of your options as possible for you. And then, yeah, it's really quite straightforward like that. You're given your room and flat after a little while, and you find out where you're going.
Fantastic, yeah. As I said, fingers crossed you'll find accommodation after clearing. I knew some of my best friends who came to Royal Holloway through clearing were able to secure still some of their top choices in accommodation as well. So again, if you do find yourself in accommodation, come along to one of those campus tours and see some of the accommodation firsthand. And of course, be super proactive then in sorting your accommodation for when you start a few weeks later as well. So yeah, thank you, Abby. Fantastic. So we've also had a question here. Suppose that you want to change courses, would you need a different personal statement? The answer is typically no. Obviously, you're going to be ringing up through clearing, saying what grades you have received. You will have already had to have done a personal statement on your UCAS profile. So that is something that the universities can check if they want to. But typically, because you are ringing up there and then on the day, it will be more based off of the grades that you have received. And that will be typically what the university goes off. So yeah, hopefully it won't mean that you have to suddenly draft another 1,000-word characters, 1,000 characters for a personal statement. So yeah, hopefully that answers your question there. Thank you for submitting. Okay, we've had another good question here. If you only get part of the grades, with the main subject being the required grade, would you need to go through clearing and be accepted onto the course? Thank you. Okay, really good question. Without going into too much detail, it's always going to sort of be a case-by-case basis on situations like that. Again, maybe how popular the course is that year, whether there is room for flexibility. The requirements typically don't change if there is one core subject that is required. For instance, if you are looking to study maths and we do require a B in maths at A level, for instance, that is probably not something that is going to change. If it is the other subjects that maybe you do alongside that required subject at A level, if that maybe is not fully what you expect to receive, then again, that's when it really is down to the flexibility available on that course. You're going to sort of hear me saying it quite a lot, but in that situation, if you aren't already told via UCAS track, for instance, always just ring us directly at Royal Holloway to again see what the situation is, so that hopefully we can give you a clear answer on that. So yeah, hopefully that answers your question there. Thank you, and again, a really good question. Just going to get some of the others up. Would we know how many places are available for a specific course in clearing in order to prioritise calls to universities? No, typically not. That is not something that necessarily is released by universities. All different courses have different types of caps, essentially. Sometimes those caps can even be flexible on results days, but it's something that will be literally flexible in terms of how popular that course is on the day, how popular it's already been in terms of applications and enrolments to the course that year, in terms of like the capacity actually of the university to run, how many people they can have at capacity for that course. There's all different situations, and typically that's not something that's released by universities. But of course, you can go out and see which of those courses are available in clearing. Hence why I say if it is sort of first come, first served, I definitely encourage you to ring up as early as you can in the morning once you know those grades that you've received, so that you can hopefully get into those places on first come first served basis as well. So yeah, hopefully that answers your question there. Let's go find some of the other questions. If I'm coming from IB exams and not achieved the required grades, I've applied for an international foundation year. Should I stick to it or try clearing? Again, there's not really a set answer for that one. It's something that typically I would probably say ring up on the day and see what we have available to you. If you have achieved the grades for the full undergraduate course, and there is space on that full undergraduate course, it's something that you could definitely check out. But if you want to stick with your foundation year, absolutely, why not stick with that as well? A quick question for Abby again. When you rung up, presumably to Royal Holloway, but probably other universities as well on clearing day, did you find that there was quite a bit of flexibility in terms of like the different course options available to you? So I know you quickly said earlier about like potentially having not straight law, but maybe law with another subject. Is that something you found quite commonly?
Yeah, that was definitely something that I found quite common for quite a lot of universities and for Royal Holloway, that there were different choices, and even Royal Holloway did offer law, but some universities were full for law but able to offer law with courses. And I know that even other students, like I had a friend who didn't get her grades for her course, and then ended up just going for a completely different course that she was also still interested in, but it was very different to the course she was originally thinking of. So I think there's quite a lot of flexibility really in what you can choose on clearing day.
Fantastic. Yeah, definitely there's flexibility. That's a big message to come out of that. So just speak to the people and see what they can offer you. That's definitely the best thing to say there. We've had a question around finance, and a really good question, so thank you. If you've applied for student finance before results day, but you don't get your expected results, would you need to reapply for your student finance? The straight answer is no, you don't need to reapply, but things will need to be edited. So that essentially the course that you have put down as you applied for student finance, if that's not the course that you then go on to, then essentially that would be the details that you'd need to correct, so that your student finance is all in place for then when you eventually need to enroll at the university that you're starting at. Again, Abby, is that something that you found yourself having to edit at all, student finance?
Yeah, that was something you'd have to change to suit the university you were going to.
Fantastic. Yeah, that's really good stuff. Okay, so we're coming to the end of our questions now. So again, if you do have any more, final call to get them in. But yeah, after clearing, is there any identification to the department or lecturers that can come through clearing? And is this like a regular contact? So essentially, if you do want to speak to the department directly, you want to speak to the lecturers that will actually be teaching you on your course. In most cases, this is something available to you. Again, if you do get offered a place at Royal Holloway, it's something that we'll most likely offer you anyway, if you do want that chance to speak to a lecturer on the phone as well, or potentially meet them on our sort of open days afterwards. But as well, even if you're not fully sure on the course and you want to speak to a lecturer before you're even offered a place, that might be something available to you. But again, it's just going to be about availability on the day of that course and of that lecturer. And of course, that chat, if you are someone who's really enthusiastic for the course that you want to study, the specific content of the course that you want to know more about, then absolutely, I definitely encourage you to speak to that expert on the course. Otherwise, the person on the other end of the phone will hopefully be able to give you some sort of broad overview, but maybe not that subject-specific knowledge that you might be willing to chat more about. So yeah, hopefully that answers your question there as well. Thank you so much for submitting them. Well, I think that has come to the end of the questions that we've had submitted. I can see there are some sort of more specific situation questions. Again, just a reminder, I'm not able to really answer them on this sort of platform, but but I would definitely encourage you to take a look at our website. Or of course, again, if you do find yourself into clearing, then please do ring us up on the day, or if you already have those grades, please do ring us up in advance now as well. So yeah, if that is the end of our questions, I guess that is going to conclude our session this evening. I just want to say a quick thank you to Abby for joining me as well. Thank you so much for offering your student-based experience tonight. Hopefully that has been a really useful session for everyone to find out a bit about clearing and the clearing process. And of course, if you do want to catch up on anything, you've missed something, I will be uploading this onto our YouTube channel in the next few days as well. So if you want to recap any answers that I've given or anything that I've specifically covered in the talk, then please do feel free to check that out on the Royal Holloway Schools YouTube page. But for now, thank you so much for joining us. Best of luck for results day next week if you are waiting for that situation. Fingers crossed for you that you get the results that you really want. But yes, thank you so much for joining us and have a lovely evening, everybody. Thank you so much. Bye.